Hello, I'm Ellie Cohanim here at New York's Marriott Marquis Hotel, which is hosting the first gala ever for This World, the Jewish Values Network, and the Rambam Medical Center in Haifa, Israel. Join me as we see some highlights of this fabulous evening. This is your first annual gala tonight, and we are so excited to be a part of it. Tell us the creation of this event and about your wonderful champions of Jewish values.
Well, we wanted to honor those people who've made a real difference in positively impacting society with Jewish values. Jewish values need not take a back seat. The Jewish people have had phenomenal influence, but usually through secondary religions, Christianity, Islam. And so many of the ideas of the world, however, are values that stem from our faith. And I think the Jewish people have a central contribution to make. And for those who are making it, like Elie Wiesel, who was a great champion of the Jewish spirit, or the Sheldon and Miriam Adelson, great champions of Jewish identity, and you need not be Jewish to be a promulgator of Jewish values, Dr. Mehmet Oz, who we are honoring tonight as a champion of human life. These are all values that trace themselves back to the ancient Hebrew Bible, and I would like to see the Jewish people have a seat at the table of ideas.
Wonderful. Rabbi Boteach, you've spearheaded the Jewish values conversation all across the U.S. What do you think is the topic that we most need to be discussing in terms of values today?
Well, there's the family. I don't want to hear more debates about gay marriage, abortion, contraception. I want to hear about lessening the divorce rate. I want to hear about inspiring children. I want to hear about a year of national service, teenagers who were raised with altruism. I want to hear about men and women who feel that they lead dignified lives, passionate marriages, lessening of materialism and our dependency on material objects in order to bolster us, and greater spiritual depth. All of those things are central to Jewish values, and I'm hoping that this conversation of Jewish values will go far and wide, that it'll really spread far and wide. That is our deep hope.
Rabbi Boteach, what's your message for an individual who wants to really take your advice to heart in terms of changing our values and really getting our values straight and priorities straight in the country?
Well, for Jewish men and women, it's so important for them to be educated in their faith. And for our non-Jewish brothers and sisters, I think they need to look to the Jewish religion as a source of so much of the world's spirituality. And the Jewish religion focuses on this world. That's why we called our organization, the Jewish Values Network, this world. It has an orientation that is not about climbing some ladder to heaven, but creating heaven on earth. It's about curing disease and feeding the hungry and clothing the naked and comforting the bereaved. It's a very pragmatic religion based on the idea of a mitzvah, of a good deed, of a very simple concept that every single one of us can be transformative, positively. And what more important message is there today? Don't judge people dogmatically, not by what they believe, but by what they do. We are a profoundly action-oriented religion. So I'm hoping that message will go out from tonight, and that this will be the first of many years where we honor those who promote Jewish values.
Rabbi Boteach, I just can't thank you enough, and I think all of us hope to be transformed both tonight and every day with the Jewish values. And Shalom TV. Thank you
very much, and God bless you. Wish you the best of success. Thank you.
Dr. Oz, tell us a little bit about how your own spiritual experience informs all the amazing work you've done with medicine and health and healing.
Well, I often kid my friends that my dad gave me my surgical skills, but my mom gave me the real spirituality that makes me a healer. If you think about it, what I'm described as is actually in 3 different languages. I'm described as a doctor that comes from a Latin doctor, or teacher, so I got to teach people, and hopefully they'll be good students. I'm a physician, Greek for physics, I'm a scientist, that's what that would stand for. But I'm also a medicine man, which means I'm a healer, and that comes from the spirituality that we bring to the engagements we have. And what we all seek is connection. And when we have illness, we often feel alone, we feel despair, and we have to be patient, literally. We have to be patient with time, but also with our emotions. And so the ability to bring spirituality into that battle helps a lot. And as a practicing heart surgeon, I can tell you numerous times people have had their lives saved because they felt that someone cared. And that superior being and the people they work through are often the ultimate test of our strength and our courage, and they give us hope. Because if you think about it, hope is not just the right thing happening, but it's giving you an understanding of why the things that are happening. And you need a bigger spirit than you to figure that out.
Dr. Oz, do I understand correctly that your family origin is from Turkey, is that right?
Yeah, my family is of Turkish origin, raised Muslim. I'm very proud of that tradition, and also aware that not just in monotheistic cultures, but in any society that treasures its spirituality, there are many ways of getting access to that, and I'm very proud to be here to support a very prominent one.
So I think, Dr. Oz, that for the Shalom TV audience, your presence here tonight means so much in terms of Jewish-Muslim relations, in terms of Israel-Turkey relations, and I just want to thank you for that, and just wondering if you have any parting thoughts on those universal values and the friendships and ties that we certainly hope are across the world?
Well, I treasure those universal values and the friendship and ties that hold all of us together. We have different tribes we call ourselves by, but they're really small potatoes compared to the much bigger story of the unifying force that's above all of us. And I think we all respect that deep in our heart and our soul. It's there. We have to get past the internecine battles that hold us back in order to enjoy that solidarity that spirituality offers.
Dr. Mehmet Oz here with Shalom TV. Thank you so very much.
Take care.
It's an honor to be here with the great philanthropist, Mr. Sheldon Adelson, his beautiful, beloved, accomplished wife, Dr. Miriam Adelson.
That's all?
So I have a question for you. Can you tell us a little?
Incredibly gorgeous.
She is beyond gorgeous. My question is, for young philanthropists thinking about how they should fund the future, what is your advice to them?
You have to decide what's important to you and what's important to your own values.
Can you tell us about this?
Can I tell them?
Sorry.
I'll tell them about my values.
Please.
Keeping Jewish life alive. That's what we need to do. You know, with only 42% of youngsters, Jewish youngsters between 18 and 26, 2 or 3 more generations, there won't be any Jews left in the United States. The one thing that we've been striving for thousands of years is now turning out to be our undoing. Acceptance and assimilation. There won't be anybody without a beard, another 2 or 3, any Jews without a beard in 2 or 3 more generations. So you got to work hard, you got to fight hard, and focus your philanthropy on keeping Jewish life alive.
Thank you, Mr. Adelson, and on behalf of the entire Jewish community.
Man with a beard. My wife agrees with me, but she doesn't have a beard.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you. Hi, I'm here with Kevin Burmeister. Kevin, tell us about your board position.
I am the sponsor of this event, co-sponsor of this event, and I'm here to support the Jewish Values Network.
Kevin, tonight we've been hearing a lot about universal Jewish values, and so I just wonder, in terms of our Shalom TV audience, what do you think are some universal Jewish values that you'd love to see espoused further?
Well, you know, I think that we can look at so many aspects of law, the way that people respond to laws in the world, how hard and harsh some of the laws are. Jewish kindness is really very well known around the world, and we as a people typically respond from this point of view, and the world really confuses who we are, looks at this a little differently, and you know, from my point of view and from the Jewish Values Network point of view, we're all about expressing this pride and expressing it in a way that teaches people how to interpret the people that we are and how to benefit from who we are.
Kevin, thank you so much for joining us. Shalom TV.
Shalom.
Rabbi Shmuley Boteach, one of the most respected relationship experts and spiritual guides of our time, is spearheading the movement to challenge America and the West to reinforce the foundational values of Judaism, which are applicable and universally refreshing in a world struggling to find a moral compass. Judaic ethical and moral teachings have taken a back seat in our culture and must now be restored to positions of prominence. Though uniquely Jewish in their origin, these pillars of the Jewish faith relate to everyone. The life of the Jewish people, although ancient, is timeless and indispensable for today's social challenges.
For many people, Jewish values are the obvious ones, you know, God and law and education and charity. But there are so many other values like destiny and redemption and enlightenment and action and marriage, meaning the softening of the masculine by exposure to the feminine, and sacred time and struggle. These are all essential Jewish values that we have to bequeath to the world to enhance the world, enrich the world, and make it a much better place.
In our family, I was always taught honor was the most important value. And with honor comes integrity, always telling the truth. Making mistakes is okay. Failing, it's fine. But always telling the truth and owning up to what you've done is the most important value.
Are simply humanistic values that one should see in the other person, not an enemy, but rather an ally, a companion.
That Jewish values dominate my sense of self, my feelings, my measures of right and wrong and good and bad and all that sort of thing.
And this is central to my whole belief system, is that God demands that we be good, and that God thinks that goodness is the most important thing that people can engage in.
But we don't really think in moral terms anymore. And we have to get back to that moral center, because I don't think you can be happy if you don't feel like you're a good person. You have to like yourself in order to be happy. And you can only like yourself when you know that you're a blessing to others, that your life is essential to others, that they value your contribution, that they embrace your gift.
You want to do good, and you want to do something good in life. I don't believe that life is just practicing selfishness. I believe life is made up of a desire to help out other people.
I thought if you are all the time humiliated, you may not grow up proud because you'll be afraid.
And therefore I believe with other people as well, that we are not alone in this world. God alone is alone. We are not. And that feeling that gives any person, therefore any nation, is what makes them strong.
Or the more important struggle, the moral struggle, to be a better person, to give your children more time. In marriage, for a husband to be focused on his wife and a wife focused on her husband. These all come with struggle. Giving charity, very difficult. You're giving money away that took so much effort to earn to a complete stranger. But when you're prepared to engage in that struggle, it demonstrates that every day you want to live a moral life, that moral questions occupy your thoughts. And these are the essential Jewish values that society has to embrace.
If you look at great leaders, they're flawed, because all of us are flawed. It's what makes us so unique, what's so special. And what I love is the fact that you're gauged and judged not by whether you succeeded, but whether you struggled and how you dealt with that struggle. I think it's a deep wisdom that many of us need to hold in our hearts when we go through difficult times in our lives.
We each have something to teach each other in the moral sphere, and we have to take each other seriously.
I think that the important thing is to have those values that you do have deeply internalized, and hopefully they're the same for your children and your business associates and your friends and your lovers, etc., etc.
Society has values, and those values actually sometimes can contradict one another. Nevertheless, if as a basis we say we are not here to hurt or to humiliate it or to shame, then that's already is an important value.
And most of all, Jewish values are about this world, a this world orientation, not about giving us a ladder by which to climb into the heavens, but by giving us the tools to create heaven here on earth.
And this is why This World, the Jewish Values Network, and American Friends of Rambam are proud to announce the honorees of the inaugural Champions of Jewish Values International Awards Gala.
Good evening. I'm Governor Chris Christie of New Jersey, and I'm sorry that I can't join you tonight for the Champions of Jewish Values dinner. But I do want to take a few minutes, if I could, to talk about some of my very good friends who are being honored tonight. First, to Sheldon and Miriam. They were integral to my first trip and my family's first trip to Israel back in April of 2012. And it was an extraordinary experience, not only for me and Mary Pat, but for our children. And in the time since then, our interactions with both Sheldon and Miriam have been amazing. And so for all the things they do for so many extraordinary causes, both here in the United States and around the world, I want to thank Sheldon and Miriam for their friendship to me and Mary Pat and to our children. And I want to thank them for all that they do for all the folks around the world whose lives they've touched. And that, I'm sure, are tens of thousands of people. I want to also congratulate Dr. Weisel for the Champion of Jewish Spirit Award that he's receiving tonight. We all know the extraordinary work that he has done over the course of his entire life. And for Dr. Weisel, again, I wish I were there to be able to do this in person, but congratulations on the Champion of Jewish Spirit Award. You are an extraordinary human being and someone that people all around the world are indebted to for the focus that you've brought on human rights. As Governor of New Jersey, I am happy to congratulate tonight for the recipient of the Spirit of Human Life Award, a New Jersey guy, Dr. Oz. Dr. Oz is not only known all around the United States, but around the world for his focus on the quality of life for each and every person that is within the sound of his voice. And Dr. Oz is an inspiration to so many people, and we're so proud here in New Jersey that we can call him one of our own. So to Dr. Oz, congratulations on your award tonight. It is well deserved, but we're also very excited on behalf of all the people of the state of New Jersey to call you one of our own, and I congratulate you on behalf of all of New Jersey's 8.8 million citizens on this great award tonight. Hope you have a good evening and you enjoy the event.
Ladies and gentlemen, when I was a boy, I heard the story of the Baal Shem Tov, the founder of the Hasidic movement, who saw in a vision that a man in the village next door to him would be his eternal study partner in paradise. So he gathered up his students and he went and spent a Sabbath there. And the man barely even fed them. He consumed all the food himself. He was utterly obese, eating every kind of unhealthy food, something that Dr. Oz would never approve of. Trans fats and carbohydrates. Grossly overweight, the Baal Shem Tov thought to himself, what sin might I have committed to have to endure this man's presence for all eternity? And as he departed when the Sabbath was over, the Baal Shem Tov looked at him and said to him, Sir, I am not an unknown rabbi in these parts, but I hear through a prophetic whisper that you and I will spend eternity together. What virtue do you have? And the man said, I have none. I do nothing but eat the entire day. And the Baal Shem Tov said, surely you must give charity when no one is looking. Surely you honored your parents to an extraordinary degree. And the man said, none of that is true. The Baal Shem Tov said, so why do you eat so much? And the man said, 50 years ago, when the Khmelnytsky pogroms with the Cossacks came rampaging through the Jewish villages, they looked for a Jew to slaughter. And they found my father, and he was a wisp of a man. He was rail thin. And as they tied him to a tree and ignited him, almost no one knew that day that a man had died for his faith because he was too thin. He was too inconsequential. So I swore to myself from the age of 8 that when they came back one day to set me alight, I would be so large that the whole world would know that a Jew is dying for his people. And with that, the Baal Shem Tov looked at him and said to him, I now know why you will be my study partner, but I do not know what I have done to merit being yours. Ladies and gentlemen, for 2,000 years, our nation has ignited the world imagination with the flame not of our ideas, not of our values, but with the flame of our very bodies, where the light of the Jewish soul was even consumed by the inferno of the crematoria of Auschwitz. We were not influencing the world with our values. We had become the world's perennial victims. I remember about 15 years ago, on a Sunday afternoon, an Oxford student called me up and he said to me, I have to see you urgently. It's an emergency. I said, it's a Sunday afternoon. He said, I'll be right there. And a few minutes later, panting and gasping for breath, there he was. And he said to me, I just heard that because my mother is Jewish, although my father is not, I'm a Jew, and I'm very upset. I said, ask your mother. I had nothing to do with this. He said, I want you to do something about it. And I said, there's nothing I can do. If your mother's Jewish, you're Jewish. And the student said to me, no, I researched it on the internet and I discovered that you can excommunicate me. I said, excommunicate you? No one's been excommunicated since Benedict de Spinoza in 1649. He said, I'm not leaving your office until you excommunicate me. I said to him, very well. And with that, just to get rid of him, I typed out a worthless certificate. I, Rabbi Shmuley Batzeach, hereby excommunicate you and your progeny from the Jewish people forevermore. And as he departed with this piece of paper, I said to him, not so fast. There's one question you must still answer. Why? Why did you hate being Jewish? You don't even know what it is. And my friends, he looked at me and he said to me, I'm a historian. And I have read about how the Greeks philosophized and how the Romans ruled, how the Mongol hordes conquered, and how the Jews died. And knowing that I would never see this student again, I had but a moment to make an impact on his life, and indeed I never did see him again. And I looked him in the eye and I said to him, "You're right. You read how the Greeks philosophized. You learned how the Romans ruled. You studied how the Mongols conquered. But when it came to meeting a Jew, you picked up the damn phone, because I'm still here. Ours is not a story of victimhood. Ours is a story not of survival. We have flourished and prospered as a people. Am Yisrael Chai. And that's why we're here tonight, to celebrate the values that we as a people have used to electrify the world. I am tired of being a victim. I believe the Jewish people deserve a seat at the table. And that's why we are honoring 3 unique individuals, 3 unique parties tonight. Foremost among them, my hero, my mentor, my shining light, Elie Wiesel, who I had the privilege of hosting at the University of Oxford beginning 25 years ago, and who I affectionately call Rebbe Eliezer. Do you know what's wrong with the world today? Religious fundamentalism, where religion has become a curse rather than a blessing, where it sows division and hatred rather than harmony, where it inspires not moral courage but mortal combat, where we hear not warm words of inspiration but insightful words of hatred. And along came Elie Wiesel after the Holocaust, and he said that I, as a Jew, have a right to question God. I have a right to hold God accountable for the horrors of Jewish history, that my humanity and my mind can actually play a role, that Yisrael, he who wrestles with God, he who struggles with God. He says it so hauntingly at night. They took a boy who had done nothing wrong but go and find turnips outside of Birkenau and bring them back into the camp. And the Germans took that boy and left him to hang on a rope. And we were forced to look at him at close range. He was still alive. When I passed him, his tongue was still red, his eyes not yet extinguished. And behind me, I heard the same man asking, "For God's sake, where is God?" And from within me, I heard a voice answer, "Where is he? This is where. Hanging here from these gallows." That a Jew can indict God, that he could feel so comfortable holding God accountable because God is the God of life, and the Torah is the tree of life, and it is the elixir of life, and God must forever abide by what he himself commands us to promote life, protect life, and preserve life. And when he doesn't, we have a right to question. Do all of you understand that Elie Wiesel gave us the right to have a relationship with God? That the religious fundamentalist believes that he has no right to use his mind or his heart in the service of God? I don't want a fraudulent relationship with God. I don't want a religion that teaches me to dislike, that separates. I want a religion that holds God accountable. I want to know that I'm here to feed the hungry and clothe the naked and give sight to the sightless. And I am sorry that Professor Wiesel, who I've loved with all my heart, and I know that his wife Marion and his son Elisha know this, because what a pest I've been for so many years to get him to every single event that I do, the love that bursts forth in my heart for him, because he is the greatest living Jewish personality, bar none. And Mrs. Weisel, Marianne, and Elisha, my dear friend, please wish your father, your husband, our best wishes for a speedy recovery, to feel better. And we will have him at our dinner next year, God willing, because I won't leave him alone. But we love him, and he's the great hero of the Jewish people. Which leads us to our next honorees. Ladies and gentlemen, do you realize that before Sheldon and Miriam Adelson, philanthropy was measured not by special sacred moments, but by bricks and mortar? Philanthropists putting their names on towers that scrape the skies. I don't condemn it. It's a beautiful thing. But Judaism is about the triumph of time over space. It's about the Sabbath being more important than objects. It's about the beauty of the Jewish festivals. We alone as a religion have never sought any empire. For God's sake, we're trying to hold on to a land this big. Because for us, as Abraham Joshua Heschel expressed it, our cathedrals are cathedrals of time. And along came the Adelsons pumping $200 million into time, buying a Jewish young man or woman just 10 days so they could see Israel and experience it as a Jew. And no one could find any permanence in it. There's no building, there's no plaque, there's no name. Just 350,000 Jewish kids who've gone to the Jewish homeland for the very first time. There's no plaque on the ashes of the 6 million martyrs who they have memorialized through $50 million to Yad Vashem. There's no plaque on those ashes, my friends. There's only the memory, philanthropy that is devoted to life and to preserving the memory of the living. I remember in this hall, in this building, 13 years ago, it's amazing that one of the staff at the Marriott Marquis walked over to me and he said to me, Rabbi Shmuley, I remember the night you brought Michael Jackson here, 2013. The Weisels were with me. Michael Jackson, the great singer who electrified the world. I'll never forget when I was trying to help a troubled soul, who, by the way, was a lover of the Jewish people and came with me to see Ariel Sharon as prime minister when he was told by his managers that he would be boycotted throughout the world. I remember Michael saying to me, Shmuley, I have all these possessions, I have all these homes, and all I remember is the time that my father picked me up when I was a boy, and he put me on a pony. And it made me feel like I was special, and I'll never forget it to the day I die. And now I see, 3 years after Michael was lost, that all he has these warehouses filled with objects. And what do they mean? What is life without sacred moments? In Sheldon and Miriam Adelson, we have a new form of Jewish philanthropy where time is celebrated above space. And never, since the Rothschild family, there has not been one Jewish couple that has so dominated Jewish philanthropy and the hundreds of millions. And Sheldon and Miriam, we are so grateful to have you here this evening. Miriam Adelson is a wealthy woman, and she could sit doing all the things that people of means do. And I'll never forget a conversation that she had with me just 3 weeks ago where she called me to tell me that one of the people that she treats for drug addiction personally in the clinic that I visited, that a woman whose life she tried to save had succumbed to the desperation and plight of someone who felt valueless and worthless. A woman had died of an overdose. And you could see the pain that Miri felt for a total stranger, a woman who was on the streets who she tried to save. Miriam, I want you to know there's no one in the world like you. You are an absolutely extraordinary person. You are the proudest Jewish woman I know, and your husband is right there with you. You inspired me to be a better Jew and be a better human being. And when we had to choose a few of your charities, 40 from hundreds and hundreds for the ads we took out this week, I could not believe the range of your charity, your philanthropy, and Sheldon and Miriam, God bless you always. Ladies and gentlemen, the final honoree. Mehmet Oz is Muslim. I am a Jew. But he embodies all of the humanity and greatness of the Islamic faith from the time of the Rambam, of the great Maimonides, who was influenced by Islamic thought and influenced hundreds of years of Islamic thought. Mehmet Oz is the world's greatest doctor. He is a human being of extraordinary compassion and caring. Amidst becoming one of the 5 greatest celebrities, certainly on American television, this decade, and it will continue to the next decade, he is accessible. He answers all of my calls. I told him he had to come tonight, and he and Lisa absolutely accommodated us. But what is Mehmet's contribution? Do you think that Mehmet's contribution is simply, and we're speaking about, do you think Mehmet's contribution is simply to tell us all to be healthy? He came to us for Shabbos dinner. He sees all these sugary foods on the table, and he looks at me, Shmuley, how can you do this to your children? It was my wife who did it. This isn't about health only. It's Mehmet telling each and every one of us that we matter, that our life matters. In a world where the individual is almost seized to be important, in a world, we have the Rwandan ambassador here tonight. I went there last year. I watched the killing fields of Rwanda where 800,000 of our African brothers and sisters were slaughtered. I'm witnessing how in Syria today, our Arab brothers and sisters are being slaughtered by the murderous Assad regime. It's about the individual being important. It's about Mehmet saying to each and every one of us, your life matters. You must love your fellow man as yourself. And if you don't take care of your own health, if you don't care about your own life, how could you value someone else's life? To have Muslim lovers of the Jewish people, to have brotherhood of man, to have life being of infinite value, to have someone utilize the television medium to try to say globally, because his show airs everywhere, that human life matters. There is no one like Dr. Oz, and I know him personally, and he's the most extraordinary husband and father. And Mehmet, God willing, I hope we will have the privilege of taking you to Israel, which has been my dream all along, because the Jewish people love you. The Jewish people love you and they respect you, and you don't have to be Jewish to be a champion of Jewish values. All you have to do is embrace the universality of the common destiny of mankind, to make this world a godly place, tikkun olam, to make it a place that is never robbed of justice, and where life matters, and where men respect women, and where families are passionate together, husbands and wives, loving each other, respecting each other. Let us create that world of values. And that's why, ladies and gentlemen, we are so honored to have each and every one of you here tonight for the inaugural Champion of Jewish Values Gala. May the Jewish people finally live up to their ancient biblical mandate to be a light unto the nations. Thank you very much.
Please let us congratulate Professor Elie Wiesel, and his son, Alicia, will accept the award on his behalf.
So, Rev Shmuley, don't go to my dad for financial markets advice, and don't ask me to make a speech about Jewish values. That's not the right mix. I'm just going to say thank you very much. My father is so sorry he couldn't be here tonight. He really wasn't feeling well, and I think it's important that he regain his health and have a refuah shlema. Thank you. I know he feels very honored to be on this dream team of honorees with his good friends, the Adelsons, with Dr. Oz, and really to be part of the Jewish Values Network and the Rambam Medical Facility, and really to do something with Shmuley, because my father and Shmuley have been partners in dialogue and projects for many decades, and I know they will continue to work together for years to come. So on behalf of my family and my father, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. There is no one more eloquent. There is no one more erudite. There is no one who has put his heart and soul into defending the Jewish homeland and the Jewish state more than Harvard professor Alan Dershowitz. He has come here to present the next award to the Adelsons.
Wow, what a phenomenal evening. What a phenomenal organization. Several years ago, I partnered with Rabbi Shmuley in defending Israel in a debate at the Harvard Business School. We whipped their rear end. Boy, did we give it to them good. And it's a pleasure to be here tonight again with him. No family in history has ever done more to guarantee the Jewish future than the Adelsons, whose family foundation has given $180 million to Birthright, $50 million to Yad Vashem. Their other philanthropy, as Rabbi Shmuley mentioned, is too vast to mention. But beyond the sums that they invest in Jewish identity, they are among the world's foremost supporters of medical research for everybody. He who saves a single human life, it is as if they saved the world, including having supported Rambam Hospital at the height of the 2006 Lebanon War. They currently are the main contributors to a project that teaches advanced robotic techniques for a small group of Rambam pediatric surgeons. Rambam is making life better for all. The Adelson campus is about securing our future, and they have built this unbelievable campus. I was so privileged to attend there and to meet with students. I met not only with their own children who are students there, but with brilliant students who not only are among the most achieving academic students in high schools today in the country. And you know, it's not good enough for Jewish day schools to be almost as good as the other schools. For Jewish day schools to succeed, they have to be the best. And your school is the best. And I have to tell you, I had one of your students in my freshman seminar at Harvard, and she was the outstanding student in the class, able to bring to bear not only secular philosophy, but Jewish philosophy as well. And it's just remarkable what you've been able to accomplish. You not only give grandly, but you give smartly, wisely, and everything you give works. When you think of what the birthright has done for our future, I have seen it with my own eyes. When my students, who are skeptical about Israel, go and they spend a week there, they come back with such enthusiasm. They come back committed to devote their lives. I've had students come back and say, we now want to move there, we now want to work there, and it's all because of what you have helped to fund. It's just remarkable. You've given to Yad Vashem, which reminds us of our tragic past. You've given to Rambam, which is about making life better for all today. And the Adelson campus is about securing the future. They all work thanks to you. You know, our enemies, while using their enormous resources to try to destroy us, complain that Jews have too much power, that we're too rich, that we're too smart, that we're too accomplished, that we're too connected, that we're too influential. But the reality taught to us by the Khmelnytsky massacres, to which the rabbi referred, the pogroms, and the Holocaust, is that we must be even more powerful than we are today to resist evil. I recently came back from the Ukraine, where I successfully represented the former president of the Ukraine. And when I was there, I discovered that the picture on the $5 bill, in the place where Lincoln sits at our $5 bill, is none other than Khmelnytsky. He still adorns their $5 bill. He was the model for Hitler's Holocaust. There is still a great statue to Khmelnytsky, much larger than the statue in Babi Yar. So we must use our hard-earned money. We must use our academic success, our well-deserved moral standing, and our other resources to defend and protect our people. As the psalmist predicted many hundreds of years ago, Hashem oz li'amo yitain, Hashem yivorech et amo b'shalom. God will give the Jewish people oz, strength, and only if the Jewish people have strength will they be able to achieve peace. There can never be peace for the Jewish people without strength. And I think we must never, ever apologize for using our money, for using our brains, for using our positions to protect and defend our people. I want the world to know, Democrats and Republicans, Christians, Jews, and Muslims, I want the world to know I will always stand proudly with Sheldon and Miriam Adelson. And for their tireless efforts to promote Jewish identity worldwide, I am proud to present on behalf of the Jewish Values Network and Rambam Hospital the Champion of Jewish Identity Award to Dr. Miriam and Sheldon Adelson. Mazel tov.
The two of you share a phenomenal passion for Israel. Talk to us a little bit about that. Sheldon, you and Miri just became honorary citizens of Jerusalem. I was there. You both spoke about that this past Tuesday as being one of the great honors of your life. You mentioned how your father never even got to Israel. He was too poor. Your father was too poor to ever visit Israel. But here you are being made an honorary citizen of the holy city of Jerusalem, Israel's eternal capital. How did that feel? And did you think about your father while that happened?
My father was a very poor man. By the time we, his children, could afford to send him, he was too old and he was too sick. But he taught me about nobility. You know, the Jewish people don't have a monarch. There's nobody out there to take a sword and touch us on the shoulders and whack us on the head and do whatever is necessary to anoint us a sir or a lord. There's nobody out there. So nobility, to be noble and to consider yourself part of a world of Jewish people, I believe brings out the nobility in one. It comes from the heart, it comes from the mind. But nobility is something that we Jewish people we don't have titles for it. We have to think of nobility from the heart. And what does nobility to us mean? Jews have been persecuted for time immemorial. From the time of the Roman period, there were 10 million Jews at the time of the Romans. 10 million. And yet today we're only 13.5 million, hardly growing at all. And the one thing the Jews have been dreaming about for thousands of years, acceptance, first-class citizenship, assimilation, is turning out to be our undoing. Today, there's only 42% of young Jewish people between the age of 18 and 26 that say they intend to marry within the religion and or bring their children up Jewish. If we here today don't do something to keep our family together, this family of 13.5 million people, we won't continue. And I think nobility is to be a mason, to work with stone, and to mix the cement that connects one generation of Jews to the next. So, since we can't give out certificates of nobility, we could at the very least think about it and act like it, whether or not somebody else approves. And I don't think there is anything more noble that a Jewish person could do than to mix that cement and connect one generation to the other. L'dor v'dor.
Well, given that the Palazzo the Venetian are the largest building complex in the entire world, you've mixed a lot of cement. You know a lot about stonemasonry. You know, Miri, one of the things that strikes me whenever we speak, especially on Jewish causes, is your fearlessness. It's your courage. It's that you and Sheldon speak out. You're global philanthropists. You're two of the best-known business couples in the world. And you come in for criticism sometimes because you're prepared to stand up for the courage of your convictions. You stand up proudly for Israel. Israel's not always the most popular country. But you and Sheldon, and you especially, you're a tigress for the Jewish people, for the state of Israel. You've inspired me to be a more courageous Jew. And I love listening to your attachment to your Israeli identity, your Jewish identity. What is the secret of your courage? Why do you and Sheldon not fall into line the way so many other people of global influence do to be a little bit more popular?
Oh, complicated question. I guess it's what we are, what I am, my genetics, the environment I grew up with. I grew up in Israel. I was born in Israel. As a matter of fact, I was born in Palestine, so you can calculate my age, approximately. And I grew up proud Jew. Nobody say dirty Jew. Well, Sheldon grew up in Boston in comparison to me, and he experienced anti-Semitism. They had to go groups of 4 to school in order to be beaten. 4 would just face each direction and protect the group of 4. When he told me, I couldn't believe in America in this time, Jews were still beaten, forbidden to go to golf course, etc. And while I grew up proud Jew, proud Israeli and proud Jew. So I guess it's inside my soul, it's inside my heart, to feel good about my roots, to feel secure, and I don't need approval from others to do what I'm supposed to do, or what I feel I want to do.
What I want to say about the Jewish family is something that we experienced 1990 or so. There's a gentleman in the audience, I can't see him because of the lights here. His name is Elie Chaffetz. He's one of God's most beautiful people. He and Teddy Cutler, and I decided that when the Jews were being let go from the Soviet Union, and they were allowed to emigrate to Israel, they had to do so through either Budapest or I think it was also Vienna. And the local federation put on a hardcore, full-court press to raise the money to charter the aircraft to bring the people standing on the tarmac in Budapest to take them to Israel. So Erwin and Teddy and I decided we would charter a plane. But for some reason, both Erwin and I couldn't go, and only Teddy could go that time. And Teddy went, and when he came back, I was very curious to see what it was like, to ask him what it was like. And he said to me, I said, Teddy, what was it like? And he said, Sheldon, it was like my aunts, my uncles, my cousins. I said, Teddy, I didn't know you had relatives on that flight. He said, no. He said, they were all my relatives. They looked like my aunt, my uncle, my cousins. And that validated to me. I said, how did they act? He said, just like my aunts and uncles and cousins.
You mean like everything we saw tonight, right?
Yeah.
With the mob, okay. So we're all a family.
And we are all one big family. And that's why Mary and I think about the Jewish people and those of us that can help out the rest of our family. We don't have an obligation to do so. We don't have a responsibility to do so. We receive an honor for doing so. It's an honor. So I said, Teddy, how did they act? He said, just like my relatives. I said, what did they carry? He said, one took a violin, one took a cello, one took another musical instrument, others took little birds they took with them, somebody took a dog. He said, that was our family. And that validated to me that the Jewish people are all one. Am Israel Chai.
Am Israel Chai. Okay, I have 2 final questions. First of all, have you met Dr. Mehmet Oz and Lisa Oz tonight?
I have the privilege of sitting right next to him.
Okay, great. Sheldon, I want to know that you watch his show. You watch Mehmet's show?
I don't have time to watch television. To be honest.
Okay,
no, the problem is, my wife will probably whisper to him and say, tell him to eat right and lose weight.
You don't want Mehmet coming to your house, okay? I have never overcome the guilt. If you think that Jews have guilt, I don't know what Mehmet did to me. I told you, Mehmet, I have not touched Coca-Cola, 7-Up, no sugary drinks ever since. He's made them unkosher to me. Now our Shabbos dinners, ever since Mehmet and Lisa come for Shabbos dinner, our Shabbos dinners are sugar-free. Anyway, Sheldon and Miriam, thank you very much for being our champions of Jewish identity. God bless you.
Whether he's in the classroom, the hospital, or TV, Dr. Oz promotes and preserves a reverence for the infinite value of human life. So Dr. Oz, please come up and accept this award.
So there's a famous expression, we save the best for last. And you are our last speakers of the evening. And Mehmet, it's such a pleasure to have you and Lisa here this evening. Lisa, what are the values with which you try to raise your children? You have 4 kids. That's very large for an American family.
Well, not compared to you.
Okay, well, you know. But 4 is a large family. In fact, just before I met you and Mehmet, when I was a radio host on Oprah and Friends, so I remember Megan Robertson, who I'm sure you remember, says to me, oh, you got to meet the Oz's. They have this giant family just like you. So children are important to you. You have a married daughter who's also become a celebrity in her own right, Daphne. What are the values with which you've tried to raise your children, especially as a spiritual woman?
First and foremost, I think the idea of compassion, of never to take for granted what you've been given, to help those less fortunate. The qualities that we insist on in our kids are integrity, kindness, honesty, hard work, humility, same things that you talk about all the time. And sometimes they hear you telling them that these are important, sometimes they don't. As a parent, your job is to teach them by example, I think, because you can tell your kids what they should and shouldn't do till the cows come home. If you're not living that way, they're not going to listen to you. It doesn't mean anything. So living by setting an example and then letting them make mistakes and guiding them back when you can.
I can just augment that for more. I actually think you have to encourage them to make mistakes. You mentioned earlier.
How do you encourage a child to make mistakes?
Well, you spoke earlier about the fact that in religion we think it's about rules, and we teach sort of the basic principles, but the word of struggle also came up as you talked about some of those Jewish family values that we often don't think about. What we fear most is failure, which really means loss of love. You don't think people will love you if you fail, and you have to provide an atmosphere where they know they'll be loved no matter what happens. But if they don't ever fail, they really weren't putting themselves out. And if you're never taking those chances, you're never going to be able to grow. Not all these beautiful trees are going to survive. Some, unfortunately, will become uprooted. Some won't. They'll wither and die in bad weather, but they'll grow back and get stronger if they know they're in a loving soil, and if you know they're there, and they'll become who they're supposed to be, not who you want them to be.
So you actually believe that mistakes can lead to better character?
There's a
because I'm a big believer in struggle, and I think that one of the essential Jewish values is struggle, because in our Bible we have no perfect people. Everybody is flawed in some way. Except for me, but present company excluded, but feel free to disagree.
I'll talk stories to that point if you don't mind. I'm often asked about how we get our ideas for the show, and the reason there's so many ideas you can talk about with regard to life, which is what we're talking about in the program, is because we're so darn flawed. We're all, each and every one of us, thank goodness, are completely flawed in uniquely inspiring ways. That's what makes us so cool. And I used to take my kids to the Natural History Museum. And they have that big exhibit there with all the gemstones. And of course, when the girls were younger, they thought they were taking those stones home with them. They would write down, I'm taking the Hope Diamond. No, I picked it first. No, they'd fight over them. And so there was one stone in the middle, a big, beautiful jade stone that was free of any blemish. And the girls never picked that stone. Have you ever seen a pristine, perfect jade stone? It's boring. What makes jade beautiful are its blemishes. The cracks, the gold inlay, the flaws in the stone make it beautiful, like us. And I think when you begin to accept that you have flaws, thank goodness, that's who you are, and then you embrace that flawed human that we are, then you begin to invent and progress. And that's why I think this whole concept of the family values and the Jewish values you speak of is so important. If I can invoke a religion that's not up here right now, well, Lisa's Christian, but Richard Rohr, who's a Catholic theologian, he often speaks about the fact that the first half of life is about the rules of religion. And think of it as sports, right? Each sport has different rules. Cricket, baseball, football, they have different size fields. You make points in different ways. That's the rules. If you don't know the rules, you can't play the game. But the second half of life, I say, moving on from that into the actual engagement of life, which is what the second half of life is all about. And when you speak of family values, Jewish values in particular, it's about that transition. And in many ways, we have infantilized the process in this country. And we have to allow it to mature. So we move past the rules, because frankly, I don't care what your rules are, because it's your game, you're probably pretty good. And if I don't happen to play your game, that's okay, because we can be in a different field. But we have to get past those rules, that game, into where the real life existence is, when we actually engage each other and compete or love or whatever it might be. And that's unique, that's the same for all of us.
And my final question, Lisa and Mehmet, we would really love to have you in Israel. Is that a possibility, Mehmet and Lisa? Okay, so what's the answer?
We just finalized the date. We can either go the last week of July this year, or we'll go next June. All right, next June.
It's gonna be next year? Okay, well, I heard both. We'll see. Okay. Wait. Oh, you didn't catch that. Mehmet Oz just said,
if Shmuley takes me, I will go.
I will take you. God bless you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mehmet. Thank you. Thank you.
We would be pleased to send a complimentary DVD of this program to anyone who wishes to support Shalom TV with a tax-deductible gift of $36, double high or more, to the nonprofit organization Jewish Education in Media. Simply visit the Shalom TV website homepage and click on the Donate button to make a donation by PayPal or your credit card. And please indicate the program for which you would like a DVD. Or you can send your tax-deductible check made out to GEM. To GEM, Post Office Box 180, Riverdale Station, Bronx, New York, 10471. And again, please remember to indicate which program you would like to receive on DVD with our compliments. And we thank you for your kind support.